we'll talk about fluids, which we need more and more at the nursery. It's a really good skill to have. It helps bring down a fever, dehydration, helps with a bunch of stuff. It's similar to injections, which we just talked about. First, we'll talk about the things you need. So the first things you need are syringes. So depending on how many milliliters of fluids they need will depend on the syringe you take. This guy is small, he's only gonna get 10 milliliters. It's 10 milliliters per pound. You could actually probably get more, but he doesn't technically need them, so I'm not gonna give him a lot. So we have a 10 milliliter syringe you could do. We also have a 20 milliliter syringe you could do. And then we have the big 50 milliliter syringe, 60 milliliter syringe that you can do. So if they need a ton of fluids, bigger syringe is always better. If they don't need a lot, you can go smaller. But I'm just gonna use the 10 for him because he doesn't need a lot. So the thing most people struggle with is how do you get these fluids into here? So the first thing is you need a needle. I like a bigger gauge needle because it goes into the syringe faster. So this is the 19 gauge that you find on the intake table. So you'll open up, I can't do it with gloves on. Sorry, buddy. You'll open up your 19 gauge needle. You'll open up your syringe. He wants to get weighed. So you'll put your 19 gauge needle onto your syringe. This is not a lure lock, so there's not gonna be the little like twisty part on here, it's just a syringe. So you'll put it on there, it still twists a little bit to get on, and then you'll take it off, you'll have your big old needle. Now you have your fluids, you'll put your needle into the little squishy part, into the bag of fluids, and then you'll pull out. If you had a smaller needle, it would take a lot longer and you would have to use a lot of pressure. So, I now have my fluids. And that was easy. Alright, so you get all the air bubbles out. So you press until there's no air left in that syringe. And now you don't need this needle anymore. This needle was just to get the fluids out. You don't need it. In theory, you could inject a kitten with a needle this size, but you won't want to because it's not as nice. So let me put my glove, actually no. So now you have your butterfly needle. This is the easiest way to give a small amount of fluids. If you have to give a ton of fluids, it's easier to use a bigger needle, but this is a 25 gauge, so it's really small. It's nice for tiny little kittens and when you only need to give a small amount, but if you had to give like 100 milliliters, you should probably use a bigger needle because it's gonna take you like 10 minutes to push that. So you open up your butterfly needle. This is your butterfly needle. And you just take off the top and put the top onto your syringe. Again, it's not a lure lock, so it's not gonna like super lock in there, but you just put it on, press to get all the air out of that tunnel, and boop, we're ready. So let me put my gloves back on. Look how sweet he is. He's ready to be weighed. He sat here on his own. All right, so now we're ready. So this is the same as normal injections. So you take your lid off, cap off, and then you have your needle. Bevel goes up. So you make your tent with your non-dominant hand, feel your pouch, put the needle in. So you don't actually have to hold this needle because it's a butterfly needle, it'll stay in there. What I do instead is I actually scruff the kitten so he can't run away from me, and then I press. And they don't like it. But this is why I scruff. And I go as fast as I possibly can to get it over with as fast as possible. If you go slower, it doesn't help. So I just go fast. And boop, you're done. How do you feel about that? You will see a little fluid bubble, especially depending on how much fluids you gave. That's normal, that'll dissolve in about 4 hours. Normally, it'll dissolve quicker if they were actually dehydrated. So that was it, and he got his fluids, and he's ready to go.